I'd like to call this meeting to order. Hi, Karen. It is call this meeting to order of the RTM Education Committee. It is December 16th. It is 7:32 p.m. And I think we all have a copy of the agenda, but the first item I just wanted to start with is committee introductions, because this is the first meeting of our committee for the year. But I think it would be really helpful for us to get to know each other. We do have some new faces, and I think that would be great to know who we're working with. So if you want, I can start. I'm Liza Lucas, and I have been on the RTM since 2018, and I've been on the education committee since then as well. I'm a mom to 5 kids in this school district, and I have kids in elementary, middle, and high school. So I'm just happy to serve on this committee, because I feel like the school system's done a lot for my family, and I'm happy to be here. So, and again, this is my first year, so I apologize if we're kind of learning the ropes a little bit. And for Anne, who's our vice chair, and for Mary Nevin, who's our clerk. I'm going to be copying you guys on all my correspondence, just because I don't want you to ever feel like you don't know what's happening, or just so we have a little bit of backup in terms of information sharing and things being very transparent. Which direction?
Okay, sure.
Mary Nevin.
Hi everybody, I'm Mary Nevin Gauthier. I've been on the RTM since 2020. I was on public health and safety first, and then I've been on planning and zoning, and then parks and rec. So kind of bounced around each year, but I've asked to be on education committee every year, so I'm very excited to be here. I think all the work is incredibly important, but like Liza, I have an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old. We chose Darien for the schools. I'm lucky enough to work in education, and so I just think this is it's just important to be involved if you are lucky enough to have the bandwidth in the town that you live in. And I've really enjoyed getting to know so many people and so many things about Darien through being on the RTM. So happy to.
Do you go by Mary?
Mary Nevin. Yeah, my parents got creative. I'm Southern.
I just want to make the right thing.
The name will ask me as many times as you need. It's something. So
Thank you for serving us.
Happy to.
Hi, my name is Peter Marushak. I've been on RTM since 2018, on the education committee since 2021 maybe. I have 2 boys in the public school system here in town, high school and middle school.
Hi, I'm Beatrice Clements. I go by B, so you can call me B. I have 2 daughters who went through the school system. One is still in college at Miami University, one went to Bucknell. And we've been here 30 years. And I have a educational background in the professional world. So I worked in the learning and development for PwC for 38 years. So this is very different, I know, but it's a little connection there. But nice to meet all of you. Yeah.
I'm Ashley Guadano. I've been in town for 6 years. I have a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old boys at Holmes in kindergarten and 2nd grade. I'm vice chair of the PTO there. My mom was a teacher and administrator for like 30 years, so I like knowing about the inner workings of the schools. And it's my first year on RTM.
I'm Ann King. This is my 2nd year on the RTM and on the education committee, so I really need a little help too. I have 2 girls that went through the school system in Darien. One is a senior at University of Richmond, and one already graduated and lives in the city. They both had a great experience in Darien, and I'm happy to be able to try to give back to the town and the school.
Karen McNichol. I've been a long-time teacher. Officially I retired, and then it was immediately brought back, so I'm still doing it. I have 3 boys, 2 of which we were in Australia, and then they came back to the high school here when it was in the old building, leaking water and everything else, but they still had a wonderful time there. And I've been on the RTM since about 2018, I think, round about there, and been on education ever since then.
I'm Curtis Butler. I've been on the RTM since we moved here in 2013. A wife and 2 daughters, both of whom are in the high school. And I'm very interested in the education program throughout. our school district, but also on the other end, I recently left finance to start a career coaching business for students and recent graduates. So I'm very interested in the outcomes as well, helping students find jobs. So.
Good.
I think I follow you on Instagram. Or in LinkedIn, maybe.
I'm working on it.
I met Lynn Andren, she told me to follow.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
I'm Karen Knapp. I have two children, a 17-year-old and a 13-year-old. They go to private school in Greenwich and have been there since they were 4. And I worked in finance for years and then got a master's in teaching secondary math. And I've been a substitute teacher here in Darien very briefly. Didn't work out so well. And a substitute teacher at Greenwich Country Day School, which is where my kids go to school, and I just joined the RTM in October, so this is a new committee, but we've lived in Darien since 2003, so I've been here for quite a long time. So, and I've always been our intention was to send our kids to the public school, but the class size was quite large at the time that my daughter was going to be in kindergarten, so we chose the private school route instead. State.
I'm Jan Raymond, and I graduated from Henley School, the middle school, and the high school when it was in this building, before the new old building was built. And it was half-dead. Janet and I were in the same class.
That's awesome. Great.
Yeah, that's the class of '61. And well, it is. I was on the RTM, left the RTM and went on the Board of Education. I was on the Board of Education for 6 years. Before that, I chaired the Council of School Parents, helped to found Darien Advocates for Education of the Gifted, was very involved in building the Learning Disabilities Program in Darien. For personal reasons, my son had ADHD before there was the words ADHD, and I got involved that way. And then since then, I have served on the board of the School of Education at Syracuse University, and now I'm on the Dean's Advisory Board at Syracuse University, and my interest in education, as you might be able to tell, is long-lasting. I started a program at Syracuse to take the parents of underserved, minority, first-generation students up to Syracuse to spend Parents' Weekend up there so that they could understand what college was. And their parents were all people I met. I was a volunteer college counselor for 10 years in East Harlem. My kids went through the schools. I now have a grandson at the middle school and one other child at Sloaney, there's dyslexia school in White Plains. Windward, he's there. So.
I have a long history, more at the local level. I've been on the RTM since over 30 years. I was PTO chairman at the high school and at Royal. I was on CDSP, the DAEG, all the things you said. And I went on to work as a substitute teacher, and I just stopped. Of course, it was a while ago when COVID came. But I subbed here in Darien, and then I subbed at Stanford mainly. And I'm interested in this education. So I guess that's most of the story. When I went, my kids went through DHS also.
I just want to add one little thing. When I came on the RTM, I thought I wanted to be on F&B. And I went on F&B, and one way part through the budget process, I realized I didn't really care a lot whether we bought or bonded a fire engine, and that my experience meant that I really should be on this committee.
I also should add that I was a proofreader at the Darien Times for 11 years
Yes.
before I became a substitute teacher.
All right, thank you. This is really, really helpful, and as you can see, we've got a ton of experience on this committee, so. All right, let's see, the next thing on the agenda is just to go through the responsibilities of our committee, and then in conjunction with that, the meeting calendar. So I think the biggest thing that our committee is responsible for is reviewing and then, eventually, hopefully recommending the budget to the full RTM for vote. And that process takes up a lot of our time. It's the biggest project we have. We obviously do other things. Last year, I think it was last year, was it the year before that we did the teacher's contract? Or last year was the administrator.
23.
Yeah, we did the administrator's contract last year and the teacher's contract the year before, I believe. Apologies if I've got the dates wrong. We also, we had to, just among other things, approve like additional appropriations for the HHR projects last year. We had to review an additional appropriation for the track renovation. I'm just trying to think of some of the things that we have been up to as a committee. And the way that we go about it is we attend all of the RTM meetings, which are on, this page, the one that looks like, it has like the rules and this one. So this one has, these are, I wish we could have a calendar feed, like for your kids on Sports Engine or something. But like these are all the full RTM dates, and then you have to, and then these are the rules committee. And then the one that's, this is, so you'll have to attend all of our committee meetings, the full RTM meetings, and then the Board of Education meetings, which is this one, it's on the website too. Again, I wish there was a calendar feed for all of this. I apologize that you have to sit there and type it in the calendars. But and then there's also, in addition to Board of Education meetings, there are Board of Education committee meetings, and I send all of those meeting invitations to everyone. I don't personally view all of the committee meetings. Those are, if there's something that's on their agenda that I think that I need to listen to, then I tune in. But I personally don't. That's not to say they aren't important or valuable or helpful, and sometimes I'll hear something in the full Board of Education meeting where I'll say, I should go back and listen then to the the curriculum meeting or whatever it may be, and that's helpful. And then the other thing, and then I'll open it up and you guys can say a lot more helpful things about this process, but you can either watch the meetings, you can dial in via Zoom, and that's a good option if you want to comment. You can watch on YouTube, and those are the live options. If you're watching the next day or at another time, you can watch on Channel 79, you can watch it on Vimeo. All the links are on the agendas, all the links are on their website, and you could also attend in person. But it is easier for me. I usually attend some of the meetings live on YouTube, and then I usually finish them the next day. That's my typical pattern. But if anyone else wants to say what's easier for them in terms of attending meetings or how they like to organize I don't want to say demands of the schedule, but it is kind of a lot if you're attending everything.
Yeah, I have a question. So you're saying we're allowed to go in person to the Board of Ed?
Absolutely.
We used to always go in person,
Yeah.
it was a requirement.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Someone said to me on the RTM, the Educate, our committee, is more about the buildings, not about what actually happens in the classrooms. Is that true?
Right now it is, yeah.
Is that a fair statement?
Well, right now, since they're redoing 3 buildings, it's,
He was saying we don't really get involved in the curriculum and stuff like that. Is that true?
She said they set policy on it.
I mean,
Right?
that's a really,
Yeah, I have a view on this, right?
Yeah.
So what I view my role, right, is to be it's a check and balance.
Yeah.
To the 2 boards that basically determine the curriculum and the insights of the public school system, which is the 9-member strong Board of Education, and the Board of Finance, which is 7 folks that determine how much Board of Education can spend. Right? We eventually approve those budgets, budget that is served to us, which is the Board of Finance approved Board of Education budget. That's going to come our way. And we ultimately decide and appropriate the money. So we serve as a check and balance to these 2, and there is a bunch of lenses that I look at, and I'm not sure we need to go into the detail, but I'm happy to when I evaluate those. But unfortunately, at least for me, is that this is somewhat asymmetrical check and balance. And what I mean by that is that we can lower the proposed budget that comes to us, but we cannot increase it. So this year, in this year, in particular as an example, the administration is asking for 7% increase in the school budget. The Board of Education charged the administration to go down to 4.75, consistent with last year. But the guidance from Board of Finance is 3 to 4%.
Yes, I watched the video that you sent a link to.
Yeah.
So,
It already seems like it's,
right, so our role, right, as RTM, in this particular case, maybe we determine that we think, that administration is the closest to what our kids need, and maybe 5.5% is the right way, but we cannot, if the Board of Finance gives us 4%, say, proposed budget, we cannot go over the 4. Now, alternatively, if all of them said 7% works, and we think that we as, we represent taxpayers here, right, that maybe our wealth hasn't gone up by 7%, or we think our tax burden is too high at 7%, we could tell them to go back at 5% or 0. In fact, if we say we don't approve the budget in May, it's in May, I think, right?
Yes.
Yeah, May 12th is the budget.
The school budget reverts to the previous year. Which is difficult because there is
I should know that living here 30 years.
maybe 70% of the budget or 80% of the budget is through the fixed cost.
Right, right.
The teacher's contract and all that, unions, right? So, and fixed cost is insurance. So it's somewhat, I call it asymmetrical checks and balances. Now, I also
What's that big word, asymmetrical?
asymmetrical, right? So it's not even, right? At least to me.
Unbalanced.
Yeah, there's limitations on.
Limitation on
I
one
agree.
hand, one side more than the other. At least that's why I do it. And but also, the administration and the view. I think the administration listens to us. The Board of Education listens to us. So somewhat there is a certain role of influencing and potentially the policy. Although I think the right way to influence, if you want to influence school policy, is to go to these meetings and stand up for public comment and view it as a person rather than committee. So.
And that we're always allowed to do, right? So in your personal
Yes.
option.
Correct.
I mean,
Of course.
yeah, but it would probably be helpful to say, I'm here as the public, or,
Yeah, you have to.
yeah, not in
individual, not
that
as a
capacity. I've spoken it before, but I wasn't on this committee yet, so, yeah.
But the reason for the reason committees are set up
Yeah.
in general is because you can't have everyone in the RTM be a specialist in everything.
Correct.
So we're the ones who are just supposed to know a little bit more about what's happening in the education side and pass that along to the RTM.
Yeah,
We're not the police of the school district.
yeah.
They are hired administration by the Board of Education, and that's their job, not our job. Our job is to be good translators, and as Peter said,
And like a bridge.
we can help the RTM by being the
Information.
kind of ambassadors
Yeah.
and ask for more or push a little bit.
Yeah.
So we're informing them to the best of our ability. But our job is not to kind of manage the school district.
Right, we don't get any line item cuts. When we present the budget to the RTM, we have to just present the budget. We can't say, we think we should cut X amount of money out of the arts.
So, I'm sorry, what is the timing? I know you said May 12th, but so what's the timing leading up to like some of the stuff that you're talking about?
So basically, and I'm going to give a very overview, it goes, there's a big meeting on January 4th, it's called Super Saturday, where they have, the entire budget is presented starting at like 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. And then it goes from there to just a lot of meetings where all the different pieces are like, discussed. Formal questions are submitted by all the different committees, by the CDSP, by our committee, by, F&B. And then formal responses are given.
What is CES?
Just because Council of Darien School Parents.
I hear everyone say that and I've never met. Beautiful.
Yeah.
I don't go to the schools, so it's kind of hard. Okay, got it.
It's great, it's the umbrella
very important.
PTO for all the
PTO.
schools.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of meetings, but in the January and February, it goes then to, I think there's a big public hearing, and then there's eventually an add and cut night where the Board of Education goes through and they, add things into the budget, take things away, and they vote, and then eventually they vote on a number and it becomes the Board of Education's budget. The next step then is the Board of Finance reviewing and approving the budget or cutting the budget as they did last year. And then that budget is then, if it has to be reworked, it has to be reworked again like last year. And then the final step is it comes to the RTM for a vote. This year, that vote will be May 12th, and then that'll be the end of the formal budget season.
Is each budget cycle from scratch, or do they start with the year before and then tweak it?
From scratch.
Wow.
I mean, they have things in the budget. you know.
Salaries and stuff and.
Yeah, well, they have salaries and they have, all the areas are the same. And they know what they did last year and they know what worked from last year and what didn't work as well as they had hoped. So it's not from scratch. And, you know, they're.
There's
they
a
have-
starting point.
Yeah.
Type of thing. Interesting.
So January 4th is the,
January 4th, and I know this is very, very much housekeeping, but I have family stuff starting from 8 a.m. until 4 p.m. that day, and I know typically what we've done in the past is we've had either the chair or someone at the meeting because fielding questions from other committee members as folks are watching the meeting. I think that can be helpful. I think that if, we will be submitting questions and we will be meeting with the Board of Education to discuss the budget. But I don't know if anyone is interested in attending sort of as a representative for the committee that day. No one has to decide today, but it's something we should, think about how we want to handle it.
and you can do it on Zoom.
Absolutely. I mean, and my personal thought is I don't think we need someone to provide questions the day of, since we will be providing questions formally to the Board of Education. But I know in the past, we've always had someone there, so I don't want to change if people are uncomfortable with that. And I'm sure we can find,
Could it be split?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
when people take shifts?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, like, I could absolutely do
Yeah,
that.
I could do that.
Yeah.
I think in the past, that's actually
Yeah, I'd be,
been the
yeah.
popular.
so we could all work that out
Yeah.
over
I'd
email.
love to sit and listen to it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's tough, it's kind of great, the years I've gone in person, it's great because it's done, you've got it all, in one day.
Yeah.
I just, unfortunately, it's not gonna,
It
I
used to
did
be,
a part of it. but
it used
I-
to be necessary that we were there.
Yeah.
yeah.
And just for the personalities on the Board of Ed, they're killing yourself with all this stuff.
Yeah.
And we don't even go. And
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's very
that's a
possible
strong
though
word,
to,
second.
Yeah.
But when we want to cut it,
No, but I think it's nice goodwill to go in person
Yeah,
and hear
very.
if it's been
Yeah.
established, so, I mean,
Yeah.
even if it's half and half, I
yeah.
know I could go for a portion, so.
Just one other question, when you say when we go and cut it, so when does that happen? You're saying, I'm just trying to figure out
well,
like how that.
5% is a big percentage.
No, I understand, but I mean, when do you give the feedback to
Well,
these
we'll read
guys?
where we think it's too much or too little, or there should be
Right.
more.
So is it kind of an organic process, so it happens the whole time from now until May, or is it kind of at like a formal, and is it broken down, like some people cover certain areas within that Board of Ed budget, I don't, I'm just trying to understand, trying to get my arms around the whole process.
Well, I mean, just, let's use the January 4th meeting as an example, like, when they are going through it, you'll see that there's the different RCs or the different, budget areas. And after they get through a particular area, the chair of the Board of Education will say, okay, is there any questions from F&B, is there any questions from education?
Okay.
And they'll ask for, sort of like very high level questions, and then after a day or two, I think we submit sort of like more formal questions. Isn't that what we did
I
last
see.
year? Was
Okay.
it
Can I
maybe?
ask what a high-level question is?
Well, I think in the day of, they tend to not love it when you ask, I don't know, I feel like the feedback has been, if you ask sort of, they don't want you to bring up brand new topics during budget season.
Yeah.
So, I'm having a hard time thinking of a good analogy, because if the topic is, okay, we're gonna add new bike racks, and someone says, what do you think about a policy for e-bikes? I think they don't want to talk about the e-bikes, they want to talk about the bike racks.
Right.
So I think that's, right, Jan, you
I
know,
think that's a good analogy.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very good.
so,
But when you get back to asking about it, it's a good question.
But time and place, right? The budget
Yeah.
meetings, it's
Yeah.
not really the place.
yeah. So, and they don't respond like on that day, they're just gathering what your questions are.
And I
Then-
think, excuse me, I think that it's important to understand that the first budget that you'll see is the superintendent's budget.
Okay.
And then the superintendent's budget will be acted upon by the Board of Ed. And it'll be, changes will be made and, okay, whatever.
That's all.
And then, when that, once it becomes the Board of Ed budget, that's the budget that we're gonna be working with
Okay.
more closely,
Okay.
right?
Maybe the way I view it is, we're gathering information between January 4th and May 12th. We
Okay.
gather it through questions written that we submit to the administration that they answer, but also through a, in person or on Zoom meeting with the administration
Okay.
board and some members of the Board of Education. Our output is a recommendation to the RTM, how would we vote, and also sort of a report that then Liza presents. Because there could be things that even if we approve, right, this is all balance, right? We try to balance
Yeah.
priorities as humans, as people, but as taxpayers, but everybody has a little different priorities, but, Liza will eventually let them know what we think as a committee, but also there could be disagreement about certain things, right?
Okay.
So, that's our output.
I think that's important because I think, even last year, I think we voted to approve the budget, but I think it was noted that, some of the committee members had thoughts about that, and I think it's important to say it publicly, what's important to our committee, and how we feel, the school should be supported.
And some things aren't even assigned to us.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, any more questions about I think we're just on the budget process, right?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome, all right. I was gonna say, before I forget, I wrote a note here. When I sent out the agenda today, I attached information about the Board of Ed is having a policy meeting tomorrow. That's been canceled. So if you were planning to attend or dial in, that meeting was canceled. And I'll forward the email with the cancellation notice as well. Okay, so if everyone's comfortable, I think we can move on to just, briefly discuss the Board of Education Facilities Tour that was on December 7th. And if it's okay with Jan, I'm gonna turn it over to her because she was our representative that day.
It was, thank you. It was really interesting for me because you drive by these schools and you see all of this construction, but to actually get a chance to go and see it and to hear from the architect and from the builder what they're doing and how far along they are with each of the schools and what's next was interesting. And some of the schools, I would say, have been easier there to add on to or to change than others. My feeling is Holmes was the easiest for them to do because they were able to just go out the back and build a new wing. Henley, I think, is the hardest to do because they have to take down walls in classrooms in order to turn 3 classrooms into 2 classrooms and get them up to the proper size. So while they're doing that, they're going to be using the addition that's coming out the back that if you drive by Henley, you see. That's going to be arts and what they're no longer calling libraries because they're so much more now than libraries, although there will be books in it. So they'll be using some of those spaces to utilize some of those spaces when they're redoing the classrooms. There also at Henley, something that I didn't really understand is the building that's in the front of the building is coming down. That is the current library. That's coming down, and they're going back to the original door opening, which will be very attractive as opposed to the front of Henley now. So basically what's happening there is everything's going back into the playground where there's plenty of room for it, and the front is going to be reconfigured. At Royal, once again, I think it was a lot clearer what they were doing at Royal than it was at Henley. And the Royal program is not dissimilar. They're all similar in that they're making classroom sizes be what they're supposed to be. And in many cases, they are not. They're also putting in new HVAC systems. Tokenica's air conditioned, no other school is. So all of that's going to be happening, and that'll all be upgraded. They're hardening the schools as they build them with putting reinforced glass or whatever the coating is on the glass that is in the buildings. That's happening at those three, and I think it's happened already in Oxford. Another thing that's interesting is Henley's going to have, and I think they all will have, outdoor classrooms. So the one at Henley is going to be right between the two wings that you can see. It'll be an outdoor space walled off where kids can sit on the wall and have a lesson, and there'll be also kids will be able to sit there if it's recess and no one's using it. There'll be another place for kids to congregate that don't want to be on the playground, which is a nice recognition of some kids that don't want to be on the playground. I think they seem to feel that they're pretty much on time for most parts of it. I don't remember what parts exactly were not so much on time. But I walked away personally with the feeling that I had a lot of confidence in the contractor and a lot of confidence in the architect, just by the way they explained what they were doing, which I can't explain, how the thinking was on the building process. And the other thing that had been an issue that they feel they've resolved mostly is the relationship of the building and construction process with neighbors. Obviously, there's going to be disruption in some places. But they feel that they've handled those things well and they're not getting complaints. Just to say, on the tour was our first selectman and Jill McCammon, chairman of the Board of Ed. We had Jenny Schwartz from the Board of Finance was on it, and some other people. We had the principals of each of the schools speak with us when we were in the building, and frequently Dr. Adley would add to it and put those things into a larger, holistic way of thinking about it. So that was pretty much the tour of the schools, of the construction. But at Tokenique, they need to make a change because when you come in the front door of Tokenique, there is a little booth on the side that you could announce yourself or be announced or whatever. What they realized is that is not as break-in proof as they had wanted, so now they're moving that inside again. But that was a recognition of that, and I don't think.
So they're taking into consideration a lot of safety, given the
Pardon?
world we're living in. They're taking into consideration a lot of safety measures,
Oh,
given the world we're living in.
Oh, yeah, the doors, you can't
Yeah.
just open a door and walk in. There's all
Yeah.
kinds of
Yeah, it was like that. when I was a kid,
systems.
yeah.
And they don't explain it on purpose.
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
I live across the street from Royal, and I've been asking the parents who walk their kids. They're like, it's fine. Like it's not super disruptive. And they said the principal's awesome and organized and, yeah, it hasn't really bothered them too much yet. Because I drive by like, oh my God, what a mess.
Yeah, exactly.
When they first started building over the summer.
Exactly. But I came away with a really good feeling about it, and I went into it without having no idea what I was gonna think or see.
Huge undertaking,
Pardon?
huge undertaking.
Yeah, and the fact that they're doing 3 of them all at the same time is kind of incredible, but it makes so much sense, because once you get everybody there, why move them and have them come back in 2 years? So, all 3 projects are going at the same time.
You explained that very, very, very well.
Yes.
Yes.
Very
Thank
well.
you.
Yeah.
Jane, did you guys visit any other capital projects or anything else that had to be discussed other than HHR and Tokenique security booth?
Let me see, we went to the high school, but I don't remember that it was anything significant. That's where we met,
Okay.
was at the high school.
Cool, thank you. There's a memo from Chris Price and Jill McCammon that I hope you all have. I circulated it, I think, last week, maybe.
Who was Chris Price?
Chris Price is one of the co-chairs of the HHR committee. I think it's Chris and Jill McCammon are the two. I think they're heading up the committee. And it's like we're 25% complete update. So it has a ton of details. So I don't know. It was interesting. I can't recall a lot of the details, but it was very interesting. If you want to take a look, but thank you. So
Jill
much
is
for going.
very up to date on what's going on and very good at explaining the feelings of the Board of Ed as they're moving through the process. So it was interesting in a situation like this where you could ask questions and interact with the chairman, not in a room with 45 other people.
That's
But
awesome.
she did a good job, as did Dr. Adler, which is nice to see.
Jen, I have 2 questions. Did they mention whether the projects are on time?
They're pretty much on time.
Okay. And then,
I don't know which parts of them are not on time, but generally,
and then overall, it was $101 million. We're supposed to get a portion of it back through some grant, I think, or through some state reimbursement based on.
I don't know about
Did they
that.
talk about it there?
No,
They did.
I think that would be a question for the Board of Ed
Yeah.
or
well,
Dr.
yeah.
Adler.
And the HHR committee also has meetings, and I'm sure it's
Yeah.
recorded. I just haven't looked at it, so I wonder.
But I came away generally with a good feeling about where we're going as a town
Mhm.
with HHR.
That's awesome.
Great.
And I hope I don't get proved wrong.
It's up to them.
All right, if it's okay with everybody, I would like to move on to the next item, which this has not been on a Board of Education agenda yet, but some of our committee wanted just to discuss there's been a ton of public comment about the initiative to change the school start time. I know that,
Haven't they been talking about this for like 5 years? It's never been on an agenda?
I mean, guys, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think it's
I
been a
don't think
formal
so.
agenda item.
No.
I think
think so.
there's been a groundswell of support
Yes.
by
Yeah.
parents.
Yeah.
I've read about it in the paper and stuff.
Yeah, but I don't think it's actually been on the agenda, but I could certainly be wrong.
No, I don't think it was.
I don't think so.
I don't know about it, if it has.
I heard the chairman once say, oh, we're gonna do that in 25, when 25 is in the far future. Now it's here. So,
I know at the link, again, they sent us from the meeting yesterday.
Oh, I think Peter sent it, thank you
Oh,
for that, by
okay.
the way.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, yes.
From November 26th.
A couple of people got up and,
Yeah,
Maybe they
the school
Students.
council president.
I know I wanted to call her and say, maybe you should like give up something, but.
What? I'm sorry, I missed that little, Peter, what,
Well, that was a meeting on 26 when they discussed the budget process. They also discussed the special education initiatives. And part of the meeting was also sort of tangentially touched on this later start in the context of one of the initiatives in the special education is to have more, or in fact, not in special education, but in teacher development, right? The Dr. Fedigan is in charge of the curriculum development and curriculum. She's the, I mean, super, vice superintendent. She basically clearly stated, which I think correctly, is the quote of teachers determines students' outcome, right? So therefore, we want to have more education for teachers. And Dr. Adler has been saying it for a long time that, school is not only to teach the kids, but also improve the teachers. So one of the suggestions would have more PLC days.
What's
and
PLC stand
What's
for?
PLC?
That's a professional learning day.
Oh,
It's a day when the students
They're in 6 now, I think.
have a later start, and it allows the teachers to work on their development and meet together and talk about the classes. So there's a back and forth about it. Some board members thought we already have the most in our district. Why do we need more? And I just remember the student representative from the board said, well, this is not this would be useful for us too, to have more of these free periods, because a lot is happening. And in that context, they talked about, later start.
Seems like the later start is getting lost in everything that you said.
Yeah.
It's a big, huge
I don't know.
project.
And again, I have not watched all the meetings, Board of Education meets throughout summer or after summer, I think, right? So maybe it was addressed there. I know
think so.
during last year's budget, they were discussing that they're gonna study it. I know some school systems have it. I think Greenwich has it. You don't have it. I don't have a strong opinion either way. Whatever the community wants, that's my opinion, but.
My daughter has it at her school too. Yeah, Greenwich has it, and they start at the same time,
What time do they start?
8:30.
But I do, for those who are the first on the school bus route,
Yes.
leaving the house at 6:40 is I admit. But, so you're right. I don't know if the discussion has been formalized.
Obviously, use a big word. I mean, it's a huge change and it costs a lot of money and
Yeah.
buses are a big deal and
Yeah.
bus drivers don't want to do it.
And sports.
And sports,
Yeah.
yeah.
But, I mean,
Kids would be on
Greenwich
the-
has been doing it for a couple of years.
Yeah,
and
kids would be on the
they
field
make
and
it
set
work,
at
so.
dark out.
New Canaan too, right? We're kind of surrounded at this point.
Yeah.
You can.
By the schools
No.
that-
I think
Yeah.
Wilton too.
Greenwich changed it a
I think
couple years
Wilton
ago.
might have done it, but.
do we, speaking of teachers getting more professional time, does anybody know if we still have CEUs, requirements,
Continuing education.
continuing
units.
education units? Used to be something that teachers did.
I doubt it when they're so desperate for substitutes and letting anybody.
But it was, you got, if you had completed a number of CEUs, which were courses you took
Yeah.
somewhere. you
Yeah.
know.
Lawyers have it, accountants have it.
What my mom did, yeah. You get.
And
That's
I
a good
don't know
question.
whether they're still using CEUs. It helped you financially if you did it. But I don't know what's, I haven't heard anything about it in years.
Did that have to be done in their own time, or?
No,
Yeah.
well, yes.
In the summer usually. is
Oh,
what-
in the summer.
how-
No, there were CEOs, you
Oh, okay,
could
my
get.
my mom used to do it in the summertime, so.
Yeah.
so.
But there were also CEUs offered during the school
year,
year.
okay.
Liza, is there a plan for this committee to recommend the Board of Ed bring up this topic in formal session?
No, there's not. I mean, we can certainly, give them that feedback if we want to do that. If anyone wants to make some kind of motion, we can certainly do that. I don't think that was my intention, but putting it on the agenda, I think, I just had some committee feedback that folks wanted to speak about it in a formal meeting, and so here we are. And I think it's important that even the topics that may not be, perfectly attached to the budget or an action item, I think it's important for us to, discuss what's happening in the schools. And so I think it might be okay for us to have things on the agenda that are pertinent, even if they aren't being immediately addressed on an agenda item at the Board of Education level. So if that's okay, I think we should be considering some things like that, God bless you, yeah, as needed. But if you want to make a motion, certainly discuss that.
Yeah, I'd be happy to recommend it
Good
to the Board of
idea.
Ed
It's
that we do
been
it.
obfuscated, it's
Yeah.
a big word.
And again,
for
the
years.
experts are getting louder and louder about the importance. We focus so much on mental health, but we're not acknowledging the fact that our kids aren't sleeping nearly enough.
Right.
And to Peter's point, getting kids on the bus that early and they're doing homework, particularly in the high school, they're doing homework till 11 o'clock at night. It just seems,
Change is
again,
difficult.
the numbers are turning against us at this point. Other prominent schools in the area have made this decision and we're just avoiding it too.
Yes, avoiding it, I would.
I don't know what the timing is in other districts.
They start an hour later than we do.
8:30.
The high school,
The high school.
the high school.
Yeah, high school.
Because what is it, remind me, the elementaries are like 8:25?
It's staggered.
Staggered a little bit, right, because the buses.
We're 8:25 and then.
There's what are you guys?
9 o'clock.
Nine, okay, yeah, so.
And then the middle school is what, 7:55 or 7:40 or?
Like, yeah, and then 7:40 to high school, right?
7:40
Yes.
at the high
I
school.
mean, you think
remember
I
that
know,
one.
I'm like my kids get
So
on the
are they
bus, I don't,
looking at
yeah, I don't, my kids ride the bus.
I wish we had a bus.
Yeah, I know,
So they're just looking
I
to
know what
change
time the
the
bus
high
comes,
school.
that's what I know.
Yeah. High
Oh, is
school
that all
time.
they're talking about, is changing the high school start time? Is that
But
it?
not the middle school.
And not the middle school?
I don't know, because
We're
I
not
mean,
talking
already
about-
the elementary school.
Oh, you're right, we're not talking about
That's
it
the
all.
point.
That's the
So we
thing,
wouldn't get it
yeah.
then probably, but then the buses become probably an issue.
So that's
If
great
they're-
that you're
Right,
gonna do
yes,
that.
in the contract,
Right.
so.
Yeah,
Whether we want it or not is another
But I
question,
think
but it's
high school,
been
they should
hidden
change the
from
middle
us.
But what I think is interesting is this whole idea
Yeah,
of
they would have
issues.
to, I think.
How have these other
Bus
prominent
situation.
districts
Yeah,
gotten
I
around
mean-
these issues? We keep raising them as impediments, but these other school districts have gotten around them. So I'm not sure why we're so special.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe, I don't know if they don't have like a contract with the bus service, maybe they have their own buses, I genuinely don't know.
Yeah.
This has not been my, this has not been my,
Definitely, yeah.
you
They
know.
might have lower costs in other areas to shoulder the extra cost of running buses at the same time as elementary and high school. Like, our outplacement costs are very high.
Mhm.
In other
Yeah.
districts, it might not be the same.
well, I think what I'm hearing is that we all want the issue raised.
Yes,
I'm indifferent because I don't mind 9 o'clock or earlier, you know. We've got a ways to go till we get.
You want to go the other way?
But I do
But I don't
like
think
the
it would
8:30
affect the
start time, I have
elementary
to say.
school.
Yeah.
Well,
It
Yeah.
makes a huge
Yeah.
difference.
Because they can't do
Because she
the
could sleep
buses,
in
they
the
can't have all
morning.
the buses going up.
Oh, for all
Either
schools,
way,
yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
indifferent
they
about
can-
it.
yeah.
I think it should, I mean, I think what I'm hearing is there's different thoughts all around the table, and I think it kind of goes to what Curtis is saying, that we need to have the Board of Ed have this as a topic at some point. I don't know how we send that message.
well, he's gonna do it.
Well, I mean, I think it's certainly.
I'm just a member of this committee.
Yeah.
I know, but why are we so, that's what we're here for.
I think we should.
How would you guys,
Big
I
issue.
mean, how do we wanna handle it? I think that's, and we can handle it any way we like. I think we should just decide what we think is the best, most, persuasive thing to do as a committee.
I feel like we need to talk to someone who knows about this the last few years. I mean, they have people standing up at that meeting.
They have Facebook pages on it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so like, maybe get a
And
little
at
bit
the
more
last board-
educated on what the problem
Like the
is.
historical.
Last
one.
Board of
Yeah,
Ed meeting,
yeah.
someone talked at length.
Why
about
does it keep getting shut down?
Yes.
I
They
think,
wanna do
I
it.
think Ann has the right word, it's just they're avoiding it.
They're
And I'm not sure
avoiding
why.
But they obviously have reasons why they're
They don't
shutting
wanna
down,
change it.
right?
I'd like to hear them.
And I'm just, I mean, I don't know what they are.
So
but-
they'll be
So we
surprised
could-
at us for bringing it up, we don't
I
usually
just
do
wondered,
that.
in general, if something is raised in public comment in the Board of Education things, they make their statement, and then that very often that's the last you
Yeah.
hear about it.
Yeah.
Yes.
What does the Board of Education, I don't know it from the Board of Education's, they hear it, and do they act on some of these things? I mean, I was thinking of, there was a teacher talking about her having to run from, about doing art on a cart or whatever it is.
Right.
Which was news to me. I didn't know that was the situation. No, I didn't know why. She was obviously wanting to make it public rather than just dealing with it within the school district, but it was obviously something that she was finding very difficult. So I wondered what happened then with the Board of Education when they have these public comments, what's the next step in these?
They have a
these
harder
things?
time not doing it.
What can depend on the issue too, right? Like I'm thinking about like the phone, like the phone topic is one that's come up a lot, right? And it's like they took all the feedback from the parents, correct me if I'm wrong with this, because I'm only a little bit involved. And then there were opportunities for people to come and speak, make public comment.
Okay.
The superintendent let everyone know he was making a policy, and there was also a way for everybody to do that. So my understanding of it, being brand new to this, was like they took all the feedback with the knowledge of like, yes, as BOE, we're going to set a policy. And then for comments on that, like the process for this one in particular, which I think is a pretty good example, it was like, okay, there's a group that really wanted like away for the day, like K through high school. I'm sure you all seen it in the newspaper, like fully locked away. And that feedback was all given, and then people obviously had other opinions beyond that one. They set a technology policy for the elementary and the middle school with the high school to be determined. And then like feedback could be given, but that was the policy for right now. And then I believe with Away for the Day, for example, they're gonna give it a try for one day, I think, at the high school. To kind of start to float that.
But they sent out a survey.
Yeah, and there's opportunity for people on all sides of it to give their opinion. So that's my understanding is like it's very clear they set policy, but depending on the issue, how communicative they are and what exactly it is can vary. Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's no obligation, people can stand up and say whatever they want.
Yeah.
So, but
And sometimes do.
it's, but I think, and you just said the louder it gets, the harder it is, yeah.
Yeah.
So if this really catches
Let's
on,
start
which
to-
I think it is starting to do, then they're gonna have to
Look
address
how
it most likely.
timidly we're talking about it. What we want to do is say it on the, say it,
I think we just did.
yeah.
Well, we can certainly, so there are two ways, we can ask as individuals, right, whether it's public comment or whether we can, there's direct contacts, emails, calls to Board of Education. Or we can do it as a committee and say, ask Board of Education to let us know what is their view on the topic and where are they in the process of evaluating it, if they are evaluating it. Maybe
I think that's a great way to do it, is to ask it as a
Yes.
question.
And maybe they can do it in writing, they can also, call in next time we're meeting or
Yeah.
swing by.
Because I think the administration said they were going to review it,
Yeah.
study it.
So that could even be a fair question, like as a follow-up to the review, our committee had this question. And see if anybody wants to, question's neutral.
Yeah, it's a good question.
But one thing I want to say is, in all honesty, I have not watched all the meetings, and these are very dedicated, public volunteers, and we sort of assume that they put it under sort of carpet and didn't want to deal with it. I don't think that's fair. Maybe it's true, but I don't think, knowing these people, I don't think that's their statement. So,
They might be like,
nobody
let's-
knows. Maybe we should just try to
We
find
should
out. Maybe
ask.
they're gonna refer
Yeah.
us to meeting of, October 15th. You know what I mean?
No, it's
Review,
absolutely
so-
possible.
They were
But-
like, let's tackle the phone,
Right.
the cell phone issue
Right.
first. and-
Right, yeah.
But it's fair to ask.
Okay, well, I think that sounds good. I will send an email and see what we hear. If anyone has any language they would love for me to include, I would love to receive it. I can't, when we send emails, if we are replying to our group, with everyone attached, we have to keep it to housekeeping items, meeting information, that sort of stuff. But if we're discussing policy, or an open-ended issue, something like this, if you have the whole committee on your email, it can, then you're sort of holding a committee meeting without, public record. So that's something that you could send, to one or two other committee members if you had language you wanted to send to me, but I don't think you can reply all with
Yeah, we
your
can't
thoughts on it.
conduct committee business by email.
Thank you. That was a much better way to say it. So, okay, great. Any other business for us to discuss tonight?
And I have to say, 11 of 11.
I know, this is like a record.
I think this is a record.
I think
It's
we
a good
actually,
start.
it is,
right.
and I think, let me look at my little, I think we are gonna get a couple more members too, this is my last thing. We still
What
have.
is the technology policy that we're
We're missing.
So
a
the kids have
computer.
to, in the high school, they can put their phones in and basically on the web
Okay.
during class, then they can take it. They're gonna do the same thing in the next class.
Okay, okay.
So in between classes,
I
when
was
they're
just
running.
curious. Yeah, because ours, they get locked up for the whole day
Yeah.
at our school.
Yeah.
They implemented it 2 years ago,
Yeah.
and it was the best thing they
Yeah,
ever
there's a
did.
big push for that.
As a substitute teacher there, when you go in as a teacher, and the kids all start taking out their phones, I've lost them. So I was like, sorry
They
guys,
have-
done.
No phones at the middle school or elementary school.
Yeah, this is at the high school, but I mean, we've never allowed it at our middle school, but at the high school, they shut it down, so.
And they can have it.
And let me
There's
tell you,
an
like I said, as a
extra though, right?
teacher,
There's
it
an
was really
extra,
hard.
right? These kids watch stuff on computers now, right?
Mhm.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
up to teacher to close the computer.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
There's a
so,
way to get around
yeah, we
VPN.
have a program so the teachers can
They're
actually
clever.
see what
Yeah.
they're looking
I'm high
at.
schooler.
There's a
Check it
program
out.
so you can see what they're looking at to make sure that they haven't
Yeah,
gone off the rails, so,
it's wonderful policy. though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
if you ask, how many Google searches are there to get around parental controls?
I have a program, we use Custodio at school, so I can see everything that my kids are looking at during the school day. So-
There's an organization in town too that,
Yeah.
I'm sure you know, that.
Yeah, I mean, this is
helps
at our school, we have this because it became a really big deal, so.
Anyone like to make a motion to adjourn?
What did you say?
So moved.
Okay, all right, I think I saw Ashley and Ashley. Okay,
Got it.
meeting adjourned.